Welcome back to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. Today we are unpacking a significant slate of legislative activity from early February 2026. It's a mix of high-stakes foreign policy, critical infrastructure protection, and some very specific domestic adjustments that could change how independent contractors work.
Right. Let's start with the international picture, because the Senate has been particularly focused on maritime security and the Indo-Pacific. We're seeing a cluster of bills addressing vulnerabilities we usually don't think about until they break. I'm looking at Senate Bill 2222, the Critical Undersea Infrastructure Resilience Initiative Act, and Senate Bill 3249, the Strategic Subsea Cables Act of 2026.
This is crucial, Victor. For listeners who might not know, over 95% of global internet traffic travels through undersea cables. If those are cut, whether by accident or sabotage, the economic fallout is immediate. These bills suggest Congress is moving from simply acknowledging the threat to actively funding defensive measures.
Exactly. And this ties directly into the geopolitical tension regarding China. We have Senate Bill 2904, the Shadow Fleet Sanctions Act of 2026. Shadow fleet usually refers to aging, uninsured tankers used by sanctioned nations to move oil off the books. Cracking down on that is a major tightening of economic screws.
It pairs with a heavy focus on Taiwan this session. We have Senate Bill 2722, the Taiwan Energy Security and Anti-Embargo Act, and Senate Bill 1216, the Taiwan Allies Fund Act. The Foreign Relations Committee is actually holding a hearing on February 11th titled Lies, Lawfare, and Leverage, the CCP's gaslighting and manipulation to marginalize Taiwan.
That title doesn't pull any punches.
It really doesn't. And speaking of soft power, there's also Senate Bill 2236, the YALI Act of 2026, likely continuing the Young African Leaders Initiative, and Senate Bill 1369, the Protecting Global Fisheries Act. It shows a strategy of engaging with the Global South to counter influence from rival powers.
Moving to the House side, we're seeing legislation that hits closer to the wallet for Americans. There's House Resolution 3495, the Direct Seller and Real Estate Agent Harmonization Act.
This one is interesting for the gig economy. For decades, the tax classification of real estate agents and direct sellers, think folks selling products from home, has been a complex area of employment law. This bill looks to standardize how those workers are defined, potentially protecting their independent contractor status.
Which is a huge debate right now. If you're one of the millions of Americans in that sector, this clarifies your tax liability. Then we have House Resolution 7187, the Clarity for Compensation Act, which sounds procedural but likely deals with wage transparency or dispute resolution.
On the agricultural front, House Resolution 7206, the Farm and Family Relief Act, has been introduced. Given the economic pressures on the heartland recently, this is likely aimed at debt relief or bankruptcy protections for family farms.
Let's pivot to immigration and border security, which remains a hot-button issue. The Senate has introduced Senate Bill 3805, the End Sanctuary Cities Act of 2026. This isn't the first time we've seen this type of legislation, but in 2026, the funding penalties for cities refusing to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement seem to be getting steeper.
At the same time, the House is looking inward at the Department of Homeland Security with House Resolution 7435. It creates an Intelligence Transparency and Oversight Program Office and an Ombuds within DHS.
That's a mouthful.
It is, but it's significant. It implies a push for more internal accountability regarding how DHS gathers intelligence. And contextually, this is happening right as the Committee on Oversight and Accountability is holding a hearing on February 11th titled Potential DHS Shutdown Impacts. So they are trying to reform the agency while simultaneously worrying about its funding lapsing.
That hearing schedule is packed, by the way. On February 12th, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs is holding a markup on several bills. Lenny, maybe you can explain to our listeners what a markup actually is?
Sure. A markup is the step where a committee debates, amends, and rewrites a piece of legislation. It's the final polish before it goes to the floor for a full vote. It's where the real legislative sausage is made.
And they are making a lot of it for veterans. They are marking up House Resolution 6047, the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act, and House Resolution 3726, the Fisher House Availability Act.
The Fisher House Foundation provides lodging for military families while a loved one is in a hospital. Expanding that availability is a tangible benefit for families in crisis. They are also looking at House Resolution 3482 regarding community care scheduling, which addresses the perennial issue of wait times at the VA.
Another bill caught my eye regarding education, House Resolution 6472, the Territorial Student Access to Higher Education Act.
That's a great catch. Students in U.S. territories like Guam or Puerto Rico often face hurdles regarding in-state tuition or federal aid access that mainland students don't. This bill aims to close that gap.
Now, we can't ignore the personnel side of things. The Senate has a backlog of nominations to get through.
We're seeing movement on Daniel E. Burrows for Assistant Attorney General and several U.S. attorneys like Thomas Govan Jr. for the Middle District of Alabama and Ryan Raybould for Northern Texas.
These roles are vital. U.S. attorneys determine federal prosecution priorities in their districts. It's not just about filling a seat, it's about how federal law is enforced locally for the next 4 years.
Before we close, I have to mention Senate Bill 3705, the Semi-Quincentennial Congressional Time Capsule Act.
I love this. Since we are in 2026, we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States, the semi-quincentennial.
Exactly. This bill authorizes a time capsule to be buried at the Capitol. It's a symbolic gesture, but it forces us to ask what from 2026 is worth saving for the future.
Hopefully a record of bipartisan cooperation.
One can hope. And for those who really want to dig into the details, the congressional records for February 3rd through the 10th, Volume 172, numbers 24 through 28, are now available. They contain the verbatim transcripts of everything we've discussed.
So what should listeners watch for in the coming days?
Keep an eye on the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. They have a hearing on Building an AI-Ready America and another on surface transportation research. As we pass more bills on subsea cables and tech, seeing how AI integrates into our physical roads and bridges is the next frontier.
And watch that DHS hearing on the 11th. If there is talk of a shutdown or funding gaps, that will dominate the news cycle very quickly.
That's all for this edition of Capital Catch-Up. Thanks for listening.
Stay informed, and we'll see you next time.